Having a tree fall on your house from your yard absolutely sucks. The only thing that could probably make it worse is when one of your neighbor's trees falls on your house. So in Florida, the law actually will protect you from this kind of thing as it currently stands if your neighbor has been negligent. So what I mean by that is if you have a circumstance where you know and your neighbor also knows that their tree is in danger of falling down and possibly damaging your property and they do nothing about it, the law in Florida says that they are going to be responsible. However, the current status of the law is such that if there is some sort of act of God where it's not their fault, even though it's their tree that makes it from their yard and falls over to your house, they will not be responsible for it. Now, Florida is currently considering changing that. What it appears that the legislature is right now looking at is whether or not Florida needs law that will make it where anytime you have a tree that is in your yard and it damages somebody else's property, you will be responsible for it. So here is the issue. The issue for me is that there may be a need for something like this, but what my fear is that it appears that the law, the way that I read it, it may be creating strict liability. Maybe they add more language, or maybe they interpret it in such a way by the time the judicial system gets a hold of it, where certain acts of God or disasters like hurricanes or other bad weather will not cause you to be liable if your tree falls on somebody else's yard. Right now, there appears to be no language in there that makes that exception. So when you read it, it looks like it's going to be strict liability. What this law also does is it says that if you have vegetation or a tree or some sort of large shrubbery or whatever that's growing on your property, but it also is actually growing on your neighbor's property, your neighbor may be able to give you 30 days notice and then remove your tree or remove your shrub that is also partially growing onto their land. So that is somewhat problematic if you go and you plant a line of shrubs, for example, right down the property line, and the purpose is for you to divide your neighbor's property from your property. Yet when they get big enough, the tree or the shrubs is growing also on your neighbor's property. It looks like they may have the right to give you notice and tell you that they're going to have it removed. Now, there's an exception that appears to be carved out for property that is more than 5 acres, but this would be very interesting. I think that it could potentially end up causing disputes between neighbors in some circumstances. And also, it may make some people really nervous about having large trees. It may also make people nervous about planting trees. And then this could potentially cause people to go and start just cutting down their trees or cause people to not plant them at all, which I don't think would be a great thing for the environment. What do you think? Do you believe that this is a good idea? Is it a good thing for the law to come into effect? Do you think the legislature should pass it? Or do you believe that this is a disaster in the making? I'm attorney Markus Sermons. Like this video and follow us for more interesting lawyer stuff.